Hello, welcome to my one and only YouTube video on how to look after guinea pigs when camping. First, you need to buy a cage or make a cage which is completely proof, predator proof, so no foxes can get in, or big dogs, because there's lots of big dogs wherever you are in the world, I've found. Foxes, dogs, cats, rats. Rats are a big one. A lot of cages, even the Omlet cage which I have, has bars which are about this big that a rat can easily get through. And my neighbour, historically, she one day got home to her screeching with some of her guinea pigs being killed by rats. So rats can kill guinea pigs, it can happen. If you want to be on the safe side with their lives, I would get chickenwire, go all over the cage with the chickenwire so that rats can't get in. Makes it that bit harder. So that's the first thing, the cage. And the cage should have a shelter bit that is completely waterproof so that it can stay outside in any weather without their bedding getting damp, because you don't want the damp guinea pig. Next, two, you want a temperature thermometer that is you're able to monitor remotely. The best one I found is the Govee one. It's quite cheap. You can put it in the cage, and from a 50-meter radius you can use Bluetooth to check what the temperature is of that thermometer. So you put it in your cage at night. Guinea pigs should not be going below. This is the thing, online I've read so many articles, all of them about what's the temperature that's okay for a guinea pig. It seems like they're much, it feels like what I feel comfortable leaving mine in, which I can't say is what yours need, is if it's 12 or above for them on the thermometer in the cage, I'm quite happy, because I know that if it's 12 in the cage, then underneath all the bedding and the hay, it's going to be warmer than that, a few degrees warmer than that. If it's below 12, I'll be looking at ways to get them warmer, or maybe it's just not sustainable. 11, I didn't feel good. And then in terms of heat, I think they get hot quite easily. I tried to keep it, if it gets to 24 basically, I'm really worried, and I start thinking, oh my god, it could get to 25, it could get to 26, even 26 is like, I can't go, I wouldn't let it get to that. So 24, I'm like, what can I do? Something needs to be done. If it's 23.5, I don't think about it much. I just keep an eye on it, but I know they're okay. I can see them doing okay and still doing their thing. But from 24 onwards, I'm like, what can I do to make it cooler? Because it could easily get warmer. So I completely soak a blanket with water. Completely soak one that holds the water and doesn't just dry off really quickly like a nice fleece. Get like a heavy kind of, I don't know what that material is, but a material, maybe it's cotton. Soak it, throw it over the cage. It'll keep it shady obviously, but they should already be in the shade anyway. And it'll keep it cooler, because the cold water drops the temperature just by a couple of degrees, just like that. So a big blanket, cover the cage with that. You can also get a smaller blanket and put it over the top of like a hiding thing for them, so it's covering the hiding thing and they can get into there. It's cool. That's a good way to do it. If it gets any hotter than that, if it can't keep it underneath like 24.5 degrees, 25 degrees when I'm there with them, I would never leave them by themselves if it was 24 degrees and I thought there was any chance it could go higher. I would, and if it got to like 26 degrees or whatever, if that happened, which it hasn't happened for me, I would be putting them into a carrier and I'd be taking them somewhere until the weather got cooler. I'd be taking them to a coffee shop even. Like, that's definitely not the best way to do it, but they need to be somewhere cooler than that until the weather gets cooler. If you're in a place where it's routinely over like 28 degrees or gets up to that, 27, 26, 25. To be honest, you probably shouldn't have guinea pigs outside. That's my opinion, because I can see them get tired. I can see them with less energy, and you just don't want to return home to a dead guinea pig. So that's my opinion. But I've never had heat strokes, so maybe I'm being overcautious. It's really your choice. Sadly. I wish it wasn't our choices how we take care of these lovely creatures. I wish that we had more information so we actually knew what was too hot, what was too cold, what they can withstand comfortably, what they can't. 3. Have somewhere that they can go and stay. Just find somewhere that they can go and stay when you need to go away. That's important. Anything else? Just keep them in the shade. Just keep them under cover and in the shade if you can. Put a big gazebo over the top of them, like I've got. Let them run around outside. Make a nice pen for them. And use to stretch their legs even if they're in a big cage. Change the bedding regularly because there's lots of creatures and creepy crawlies that will get into it and try and sleep there with the guinea pigs, so you don't want that. Obviously change the water regularly because you get flies landing in it and that's not nice for a guinea pig to drink from, and I don't know if they could get some kind of illness from it. Also, then keep them away from huge big loads of grass. Mine got some kind of parasite. It looks like mites or something, tiny little mite dots. It just looks like tiny little dots on their fur. They've had them for about a month, and they look absolutely like not stressed. They're not itching. You couldn't even tell they had anything wrong or any parasites unless you looked at them and saw these tiny little dots. And I took them to the vet right away. And he gave me some I bought some really expensive medications and just gave it me. And I've used it twice and it's not worked yet, so he said I could use it one more time, see if it works, and if it doesn't then I'm gonna have to go back to the vet. But they seem fine, but I feel like it's always a risk. You should let guinea pigs run outside, and it's always a risk they'll catch something if they're outside, but maybe keeping them away from huge loads of grass and messy stuff is a good idea. So I'll show you them quickly. This is where mine live. They've got an Omlet cage. I don't know how well you can see it, but this bit here, this green bit, is always completely waterproof. And I pull out the bottom drawer thing of it when it's a hot day, so that they can go straight onto the grass and it's cooler than sitting on the plastic. Whereas obviously if it's cold you keep the plastic in and it's a layer of insulation. If I do put them straight onto the grass and I'm not going to be around, I put bricks all around the outside here, just so that it's harder for any predator to come and upturn the cage and get to them. This is the outdoor bit of the cage, which I've covered in chicken wire, using cable ties and chicken wire. You can see it's very nice. Very nice chicken wire. Okay, so obviously keeping them warm. I'll just give some final tips for keeping them warm. I've got an upside down dog basket, which is like got thick padded wall, and then it's a thick padded wall. Just find it from like any shop that sells them. A lot do. A lot of budget shops sell them, and you can fill it with hay, completely full, just enough so they can get in, and then you cover the whole blanket with the whole dog basket upside down thing with a blanket to keep the draft out. And just put as much warm stuff in as you can for them to get warm. I don't have any electricity, so I can't use the Snuggle Safe heat pad thing that's all over the internet recommended. I did used to give them hot water bottles, but that I don't think that's a good idea. I think if it's that cold, you should have them inside or different. Like before, I didn't used to use the dog basket, so hot hot water bottles are a last resort. I wouldn't use them, to be honest. I think it's too humid and they could get too hot on them. Yeah, layer up. At night, throw a huge blanket all over the cage, including the outdoor bit, so that the draft can't blow in on them when they're sleeping. I have a separate cage here, which I use to bring them inside the tent on nights when I know it's going to be particularly cold, and then I put the whole dog basket, loads of hay, etc. Cover it all up with I cover this cage up on a cold night with a nice, lovely, big, thick blanket that I have, and also a double duvet, so that it's really warm in there. At first I was worried, like, will they be able to breathe if they're covered in this many layers of stuff? And to be honest, it's not that airtight, I guess, covering them up. I do cover it up with them fully and they've been fine. They're not suffocated, obviously. They seem very happy. Probably make sure it's not too tight, like I wouldn't tuck it underneath. That just makes sure a little bit of air still gets in. I don't think I have any more advice for you. I'm looking at myself on the screen. My top's on inside out because it's Sunday. I'm having a lovely day at the campsite with my guinea pigs and coffee. So don't judge me. First ever YouTube video, only ever YouTube video, and I'm just doing it because it would have helped me to know in particular about the sturdy ratproof cage, the ratproof bit, and the thermometer in particular. Two very great pieces of advice. And if you keep them in the tent as well, keep them inside a compartment. I thought it was okay to keep them in the middle bit, but the condensation comes and gets over. The compartments are actually really great for keeping off condensation and stopping stuff getting damp. So yeah, I've got a tent with 2 compartments. 1, 2, and the guinea pigs go in the other one when it's cold and they need to be inside.